Hey everybody, it's Vicki with the Lavinia World Video Design Team, and today is going to start a two-part series on a project that I want to create with you from start to finish. So I don't have an example of what we're going to start to finish, so you're going to have to stay tuned to see what that's going to look like. But I will tell you that it's a project that's near and dear to my heart because it's going to be a gift for my new grandson that's due at the end of July. And hopefully a few days after we finish this project on the 20th, he will be here. And we're super excited, and I'm kind of excited to share this project with you. But the project is not going to be a card or a tag or an ATC. I want to show you the versatility of the Lavinia stamps. And there are several artists on the video team that have shown you a few things. One of them was a tote bag that was stunning. And Bonnie, who is on our team, actually does a lot of mixed media work. And I love her stuff. And that's a little out of the box for me, but one day I'll get there. But I do encourage you all to try something other than a card. Our project is going to be something similar to this, which is a framed image that we are going to ink and stamp, which makes it completely unique to the person that I am giving it to. But I do make these, and quite often I gift them to new grandchildren or new babies, and they're just perfect for a nursery room, and that's where magic starts, right? But anyway, so on this project, I've used Ariel and one of the woodland hares, and of course the whimsical wisps, which are perfect for a nursery. And the little yellow dots are one of my favorite things to use when I'm embellishing a card or a project that I'm making, because the Nuvo drops is what those are, and we have a wide variety of those. They come in pearls and metallics, and they're just a great way to embellish your card, giving it just a little bit of texture, not a whole lot unless you make it a little heavier. But because this is going to be in a framed image, and it's matted, I have a little bit of space, so I'm actually going to use some gems to highlight this, but that one does, and we will be using Nuvo in our project. But we're going to start with the Tree of Dreams. We're going to use the woodland hares, the fairy walkway, wildflowers, and on just an inked background with 4 colors. We're going to use the archival ink, Cornflower, which is a really pretty light blue color. We're going to use the archival ink watering can, which is a really pretty gray color. It's not too brown and it's not too yellow. It's kind of really perfect in the middle there. Of course, we'll use some VersaFine Clair because they do so well with the images. So this is the Twilight, and then of course we will use the Nocturne. And then I've got my Nuvo drops I told you we would use, and this color is called Navy Blue, but it's actually a very pretty, a little bit of a metallic sparkly to it. And it's pretty true to color, so it's not quite navy, but it's going to work with the colors of ink that we're going to use. So I'm going to gather everything, and I'm going to get it ready. I am going to go ahead and put my tree on the platform just to save us a little bit of time. And I am going to get my disc ready for my tree and my torn paper to create that background. So let me get everything together, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got everything together, and I'm going to use my blending brushes, which are also available out on the website. I'll link to those at the end. I'm going to start with my Cornflower Blue. So I want to get plenty of ink on it, and like I've kind of shown you in the past, we're going to start off the page. Now I'm going to work on this project sideways, but I think you'll kind of get the gist of what we're doing. So I've got my torn piece of paper, and I'm just going to start at the bottom. And I'm actually going to do this blue all the way to the top. But I'm going to turn my paper in a few different places just to kind of give it a little bit of dimension. Now you'll notice, whoops, I'm getting a little heavy there. You'll notice that I'm leaving quite a bit of white in here, Now I'm going to go back with my gray because that's the color palette that I'm using, but you could leave all of this section white, just, you know, be like a shadow, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come across, and again, I am going to do the whole background with this. Some of them will be a little lighter and darker, and there's no rhyme or reason to my project when I create my backgrounds. And I think that's one of the things that makes them so magical. And I'm going to come just a little higher. And I'm going to move my torn edges around so it's not identical the whole way. Kind of see that? Okay, I'm going to stop there because I'm happy with the way that looks. Let me pick that up and share it with you. So this is going to be the bottom of my project. All right, now I am going to put the lid on that. We are pretty much done with our cornflower blue. And now I'm going to go back in with my watering can. Make sure I don't mix up my brushes. And for this one, I'm going to use the opposite end of my torn piece of paper because I want it to be a little bit contrast, or put some contrast in there. And for this one, the gray is a little dark, so I'm going to brush off the paper first, and then I'm going to come in here because I really want it to be pretty light, and this gray can be dark if you let it. And I'm only going to put the gray in a few places because we're actually going to stamp the steps in the gray. And I think this brush, actually, this is my brown and gray brush, and I have a little bit of extra brown left on it from my last project. So we're getting a little more of a brown than what I wanted, but we're going to make this work. And what I can do to fix that is, now that the gray is covering the brown in my brush, I'm going to go back just a little bit so we know it's gray and not brown. But play around with your ink colors. Don't be afraid to switch them out, mix them up. Try not to mix your brushes up, you'll be sorry. And good brushes, while they might be costly, are so worth the investment. Okay, I'm a little happier with that. So now you can see we literally just added a few of the valleys there. So before I put in my stairs, I am going to take my Tree of Dreams, which I already have in my platform, exactly where I wanted it. I wanted to save us as much time as I could. Make sure we get the bottom here. And I'm going to hold this down with the magnets and just double check. Okay, so you can see our tree is right there, and I've centered it the best I could. Now, one of the things I didn't mention is that our opening is 5 by 7, right? So I made this 5.5 by 7.5 because I wanted some edge so that I could adhere this to the mat. And so that's why I gave myself an extra ½ inch on tops and top, bottom, and both sides. So we're still going to have the tree in the center there. Now, I want this tree to be in the blue, so I know it's off screen, but I'm inking it up with the Twilight, and it's just beautiful. And I'm going to stamp this a couple of times, even though my ink pad is pretty wet. I want to get a nice, really pretty image. And we're going to do most of us stamping today, and then I'm going to take it off and let it dry completely because I don't want any warping at all. So I didn't want to take a chance with my heat gun and warp the paper, because even though it's going to be underneath glass, there's a little bit of difference between the matte and the glass, so I don't want that to be able to be seen there. And so you can see we've got our first impression of the tree. And I'm going to come back in here and really ink it up. I love this tree. It's humongous. And in the States, most of us make A2 size cards, and this is going to take up the entire card. But they make gorgeous cards, and I actually have a card made to share with the design team group. So I've used it and done the same color palette, but I can't quite show it to you yet. I'm going to go ahead and give this just one more ink on the one side. It's kind of light. Okay. just going to give it a good press. Let it soak up. I typically like to use watercolor paper. It depends on the size of it or thickness, the weight of it, with which project I'm working on. Okay, I'm super happy with that. But I like the way the ink sits on it. Okay, let's move this because we won't use that anymore for anything that we're going to do. So now we've got this great navy blue tree in the midst of our gray and light blue mountains, and it just really pops out. That's the only thing that we're going to use the blue for right now. And then we're going to go in and we're going to put our hairs down in the fairy walkway, and then we will use the blue again for the wildflowers. So I'm going to put that off to the side, and I forgot to grab a couple of blocks, so I'm going to do that now. And these are the fairy stairs. I'm going to put that on the white there. I love to play with them. You kind of create, they can walk up anywhere. But I thought, how great would it be to just have this magical place where you could walk up to a tree of dreams and just kind of leave your dream right there and wait for that to come true. All right, so I'm going to stamp this using the watering can gray. I'm going to make sure that I get it nice and wet. And I want to put it right up to the tree. And I'm just going to let that set. So we're done with our gray. Okay, so you can see the contrast on it. And I may go back through with a little bit of alcohol, maybe on a paintbrush to darken it up and kind of smoosh it around a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. So we are done with that, and now we need to actually pull the platform back out, and I'm going to line up the hairs. Okay, so you can see I've added the 3 little hairs. These are the new hairs, and they're a little off-centered because there's 3. I like that because I'm actually going to add more wildflowers on this side and make him look like he's just poking out over here, and then we'll add a few down here. And I was actually going to put one of the hairs on the walkway, but the direction that I put it and with the dark navy of the tree, he looked like he was going to get a little bit lost, so I left him like that. So now we're going to go and we're going to take our nocturne, I'm sorry, not the nocturne, but the twilight blue, and I've got the wildflower stamp. And this is one of my favorite stamps. I'll probably tell you that every time I talk with you. And I'm going to start over here because most of it is going to be here. Now I'm going to leave the stem off the page for most of the stamping that we do, only because it's just not something that I'm using as a field, like in the field as an element this time. But I definitely want the contrast of that navy and the black side by side. So I'm going to put quite a few down here, and I'm going to remember to make them at different levels. You know, because when you look out in a field, all of the flowers are these just beautiful different colors and textures, and they're wildflowers, so they're not supposed to grow super fancy. So I'm going to put another one about there, and then I'm going to go in with just the top in between those. And remember that I've got that 1/2 inch over there, so while I might ink over there, part of it will be hidden with the picture mat. Okay. So we've now finished this side, but I think I'm actually going to add a few here because I want the walkway to, you know, look like somebody has manicured it maybe a little bit. So we're going to come right there. I think I might have smushed a bit. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to come back with our twilight and go all around the edges of the whole picture to give it even more of just kind of a dramatic look and feel to it. So now I'm going to come in, I'm working on this side, I could probably do this part upside down so you all could see it. And it's okay, in my opinion, in this instance, for the blue to be on top of the black because they're just behind it. They don't have to be in front of it always. I almost always work light to dark. It's kind of how I learned to stamp, and so it makes the most sense to me. It was something my mom told me about when we were using a product, that you go light to dark, and so that's kind of what I'm used to. And I actually want to put one right there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those. We could always go back in and add more if we wanted to, and I might even mask off a little bit here and put one or two up here, but I want to get the rest of it done first to be sure that that's what I want to do. And to be honest with you, we actually don't have too many more stamping techniques that we're going to do on this particular card. I'm just going to get the ink off my stamp there, and I got to be honest, that's about all I do is get the excess ink off, and then once a month or so, if I feel like it's a bit sticky, I just start to clean it off. So I think this is going to be a great starting point or finishing point for us. I want to let this dry before I go in and do too much more to it. So I'm going to give it about 30 minutes to dry, and then we will come back on the 20th and we're going to finish this off. So I hope you all have a great day, and maybe in the meantime start working on something and share it with us. We've got a great group at Facebook, Anything Lavinia, and we have exchanges and challenges with your opportunity to win a gift certificate if you win a challenge. But it's lots of fun, and everybody in the group is so supportive. So let your picture dry if you're working along with me, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks to finish this. Have a great day.